As Coach welcome comment, as always, raise your hand, keep them up for a second. We get everybody.
How's everybody today? Good. Well, I guess it was pretty obvious that we didn't have any choice. After 11 years, we had to go inside for a scrimmage. So we feel like we've been very fortunate. I also think it's an opportunity for our players that sometimes, you know, you get rain delays at places. We had one at Missouri a few years ago that was over an hour long. Players have to be able to respond and react to things like this. You know, you think it's going to be a nice day and all of a sudden it isn't. So none of this stuff can affect how guys go out there and compete. I do think that there was some improvement in terms of how we played versus last week. Really hard to know because, you know, the two things that we really want to evaluate is how many mental errors do you make, how many unforced errors do you have, how many missed tackles do you have on defense. These kinds of things, I think, can be sort of terminal in terms of can't have those kind of mistakes because the other teams basically you're giving them a free pass. They're not doing anything to earn what they get. And I do think we made some improvements in that area, but I also think that we need to continue to improve, especially with some of our younger players who are not that experienced. Still don't have the sense of urgency that you need to be able to go out there and play when it comes to just doing my job. I mean, everybody wants to look at the quarterback and make plays, but they're not really necessarily doing what they're supposed to do the way they're supposed to do it. So we got to keep working through that. You know, we've won a lot of games around here being sort of relentless, competitive, overcome adversity, keep playing the next play, sort of having a mindset with tremendous intangibles. And, you know, that's something that I think we have to earn and we have to keep growing and build on as a team. And, you know, I think that's something that we want to definitely be able to finish the spring with. So, you know, there's going to be some teams that look at it like, okay, we got 2 days left, an A day. Let's just take it easy and try to endure the practice. I want every player to go out there with the right attitude about what they need to do to get better, to benefit them as players, and also to benefit their unit and our team. So that's going to be the goal for the rest of the spring. You know, Tua had a little setback yesterday with his hand. So, you know, the doctors are trying to evaluate the best course of action and what we do with him the remainder of the spring. And with that said, I can't really tell you any more, you know, about he didn't take any snaps today. He did take a lot of snaps yesterday. So, you know, we're going to try to protect this and make sure that this thing is not going to be an issue for him in the fall. You know, look, we hate it very much when any player that we had here who did a great job for us at Alabama, great job in terms of how he represented the university, how he represented our program, the contribution he made to the program. And obviously, you know, we have a player that you'll probably ask me about and that has legal issues, Reuben Foster. And I don't think I'm in a position to comment because I don't know the details and the facts. And, you know, one of the things that we try to teach our players here, there's consequences for, you know, good and bad behavior. But we're going to remain supportive and try to help our player every way that we can. So, you know, we don't condone this kind of behavior, but and certainly would not like to see any of our players have these kind of issues or the victims to suffer any at all. So with that said, I can't make any more comments about that.
Coach, we'll start down front here with Mark.
I'm just wondering, how's the dynamic been this year with Mike Locksley as an OC and having Dan Enos as a quarterback coach? How do you sort of balance those two as they work with the quarterback?
I think it's worked out great. You know, I think the quarterbacks are getting a lot more immediate attention, self-gratification. I think the best way to teach is if somebody makes a mistake or makes a good play, either one, to get immediate feedback is probably the best way to learn. And I think, and I've talked about this before, but with the advent of tempo offense, fastball, players don't get coached as much between plays because they have to go get lined up to play the next play, get the signal, so they don't get that feedback, immediately. And I thought that when the offensive coordinator was over on the side running the practice, putting up signs, calling plays, that he's not even in a position to give the quarterback feedback. So I thought, it would be good to, when we added a 10th coach, to do like what we've done in the NFL, where there was a quarterback coach who would be able to give a guy feedback. And I think Mike and Dan get along really, really well. Both have been successful coordinators in the past, and I think they both have a lot of respect for each other. So I think it's worked out fine.
Come back here in the middle, Chris Walsh.
Speaking of quarterbacks, I want to ask about Mack Jones, and how has he kind of handled not being that guy in the spotlight where the other guys were, and has it affected his development at all?
Well, no, I think Mack has made a lot of improvement. I think he's a guy that has to mature in terms of, he's very competitive. And, when you're a quarterback, how does what I'm doing affect my unit? So when things don't go well, you can't always show your emotions, show your disappointment. You have to be positive, like we're going to get him on the next play. All right, so that's a part of his leadership that we have to continue to work on. But, he's made more and more good plays, and we feel really good about his development. And we're just trying to get him to focus on being the best player that he can be, because, he's going to be in position this year where, he's not going to be far away from having to play.
Come back over here with Charlie.
Sticking with quarterbacks, what did you see from Jalen today?
Jalen has done, I think, had a really good spring from the standpoint that, we've really tried to focus on continuing to help him, develop confidence in the passing game. And he has shown signs of being able to do that, and we want to continue to work on that. But he has done, a really good job. I think sometimes, you can't just think about making plays. You have to sort of make plays based on how they're designed, and have some faith, trust, and confidence that in the people that are playing with you, that if you go through your progression, that's going to give us the best chance to be able to make some explosive plays in the passing game. And when it breaks down, then you use your athletic ability to try to make up for it. So, but I think he's done much better at that this spring.
Two more, Reiner and Alex.
How often do you use these news conferences to kind of reinforce the message to your team, and why do you think is an effective platform for doing so?
Well, first of all, you're assuming that I do. So why did you ask the first question? Because you answered it with the second question. And look, I always have a message, to everybody in our organization, the fans, and everybody in the organization, because it's a philosophical thing that I try to reiterate when I'm in a press conference. So it's not necessarily a message just to the team at all. So it's just trying to give everyone feedback in terms of what's happening in the program, and in some cases what I think we need to do to improve. So I don't really, I still can't understand why you'd ask the first question, because you answered it yourself when you answered it. Am I correct on that or not?
Kinda.
Kinda?
Yeah.
Oh, so you're giving the benefit of the doubt.
We'll wrap up here with Alex.
Two quick questions if I can. I know Trayvon's kind of dealing with his injury a little bit this spring, but how have you seen him make progress, especially after, kind of obviously losing the job after the first game and then kind of coming back, working with Mink a lot, during the season last year? How have you seen him make progress this spring?
Yeah, well, he's been able to practice all week, and I think he's a lot more confident this year in terms of understanding what he's supposed to do. And I think as long as he stays focused and doesn't start just staring at the quarterback and not doing what he's supposed to do, which a lot of these guys make a lot of plays with their eyes when they're in high school. All right, so that's what but when you're playing man-to-man, you got to look at your man. You can't cover your guy if you don't look at him. So that's not the time to be making plays with your eyes. So we continue to try to train our guys as to when you can make plays with your eyes and when you have to focus on the things you need to focus on to be able to do your job in that particular coverage or defense or pressure or whatever it is. That he's gotten a lot better at. But every now and then he'll, sort of revert back. So as long as he stays focused on that, I'm very confident that he can be a very, very good player for us, and I'm really kind of encouraged by the progress that he's made.
And lastly, just your thoughts on the new special teams rule, the fair catch inside the 25 is a touchback.
I would have liked to seen a different solution. I understand the reason, and I respect the reason, which is player safety. But I guess I've been around long enough to remember when we used to kick off from the 40-yard line, and there were too many touchbacks, so we moved it back to the 35. So for us old-timers, I thought it would be an easier solution to just move it back up to the 40-yard line, because you would get more touchbacks, but you could still sky kick, onside kick, which you can still do some of those things, but you sky kick trying to give somebody bad field position, they can fair catch the ball on the 15-yard line and get it on 25. So that takes some of the strategy out of the game, to me, with the result that we had. And you would have got the same result if we'd have just moved it up 5 yards, because almost everybody in college football would have kicked nothing but touchbacks. And you still would have had all the strategies that you could have used in other circumstances.
Okay, thanks, guys.